So I'm going to try and make this one as interesting as possible because it's an important one, but it's a dry one. This topic is about how to think about supporting yourself in Spry, and what I mean by that is how do you troubleshoot generically, not how do I solve this specific issue or that specific issue in Spry, but more generically, how do I look after myself if it's a Saturday, a Sunday, might be evening, early morning. Potentially you've contacted support, you haven't heard back yet. Like some of the strategies that we will use when you call us for support to help you solve these problems. So we'll get plenty of phone calls. We won't know the context of what you're trying to do, but we're able to help you because we follow some version of this strategy. And the basics of the strategy is to atomize the issue. Now, the concept or the word, there may be a better word for it, but what it's about is taking a big problem, like this number is not right, I'm getting the wrong tons, I'm getting the wrong volumes, I'm getting the wrong qualities, and trying to make that problem as small a problem as possible. And what I mean by that is each generally a big problem is made up of lots and lots and lots of small problems, and oftentimes solving one small problem will give you the answer for solving lots and lots of small problems, and the big problem that you're looking at will also be solved by solving the small one. To summarize, and I hope whoever I had today that inspired me to have this conversation doesn't realize or doesn't think that I'm pointing them out, because the thing that I'm about to talk about I get multiple times, probably a week, and as would anyone else in support, where we get a problem similar to this, which is where a client will call for assistance with their Spry model. And the problem that they've got is that something isn't right. And I know it's a pretty vague thing to say, but oftentimes what will happen is you'll be in the middle of working and you'll look at your result and you'll know immediately, right? Something's not right. My excavator's not going. My qualities are wrong. Something is not working. And oftentimes because you are aiming for a high level target, like a year's worth of a quality or a year's worth of something, that you look at the problem from a yearly perspective or even a monthly perspective. So what I want to talk about is, okay, if you've got a problem, the first thing I want you to try to do in Spry is break it down to the first time it happens and the smallest possible example of how that happens. And there's two reasons for that. So we've got atomize. I started writing know the right answer, but I'm changing my mind. Atomize and find the first time. So make the problem as small as possible. So I'm going to say that this quality that I'm interested in is too low, right? And I already know the answer. I've made this problem. But one of the things that you can do from, say, a pivot table or even a spreadsheet is you can try and find like the actual output schedule. So all of the results in your Spry models, the troubleshooting process generally starts at the output schedule. So the output schedule will show you the first time something happens. It'll let you sort things by date. And what I want you to try to focus on is, and I know it's hard because when you're in the middle of a problem, you're looking at the problem from a high level. Take that problem and try, firstly, making sure that it solves for an individual line of the output schedule. And make sure it solves, for a handful of them that you know how they should work out. And what I mean by that is, you should know for any individual problem, in order to solve it, you need to know, if I know that x plus 1 equals 3, then I can work out that the x is 2, right? But if I have multiple lines and I'm looking at the sum of all of these multiple algorithms, or essentially what this is a series of very basic algorithms, you need to be able to say, well, I'd expect for this line of the output schedule for my x to be 2. But my x is actually showing up as 1.5, and you can go, okay, why is x coming out as 1.5? And it allows us to break it down. So the first thing I want you to try to do when supporting yourself, and even if you get stuck here, right, this is not the end of it, this is just how you can help yourself, but you want to look for the problem on an individual line of the output schedule. And oftentimes the easiest way to do that is to get your schedule open on one screen, your animation open on another, and to go, okay, that is that number is correct based on my back of the envelope, like what I expect. If I add these numbers up, that's what I would expect to get. So if I go looking for my coal, and I say, look, I'm expecting, so this is showing 14.79%, and this is an ash field. If I right click on that, I can go to the record on the table. Once again, breaking it down to a small number, I can see that it's also 14.79. That's a number that I would expect from this. But if I step right up to the top of the table, then my average ash here is 12.5%. If I go back to my pivot table, my average ash is 1.4%. That's not right. So this is where you want to go, okay, it's not right at the high level, but it's right at part of the individual level. And maybe already at this point you've found the answer, you've realized that you've got something that's not right. On top of this, what you need to start doing is saying, okay, I've found the smallest version of the problem, and maybe the smallest version is okay, but it's not at a larger level. It starts to be wrong. So there's multiple ways to address this. You can use calendar tables to help you write back average results. That can be one way to help you aggregate to a certain level. Or what you can do is, if we say look at it on monthly level, be like, okay, that number's too low. We can, once we've atomicized, we can start to spread it open a little bit. And as long as you're not looking at too big a list, you can actually start to eyeball these, and you can start to do the maths again on, or do the problem solving on maybe a slightly larger group. You may need to start expanding your mindset into thinking about things that shouldn't be returning a result. But if you can break the problem down to a smaller problem as you can, so the output schedule is one example, then that's going to be quite helpful. Now, your numbers might be calculating fine, but you're saying, well, actually, no, my excavators are in the wrong location. Like, you can see this, it gets stuck and then it doesn't move, or it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Once again, the problem, the solution to this is the same. It's just, the concept is the same. We just use a slightly different tool set. So when we're talking about supporting at a atomicized level, down at the atom, then we're looking for a node on the output, node on the deposit table or calendar table or destination table. We're looking for a single line of the output schedule. Oftentimes, we've found the answer at this point when it's about reporting. Or if we're talking about the behavior of the excavators from an animation perspective, or from at the start of the month it stops doing this, or it starts doing that, or it's not going here, or it's not going there. What you should be doing is saying, when's the first moment, or even, like, oftentimes it's maybe you don't have to find the exact minute, but like find roughly the start of where that behavior is wrong. Because once again, to atomicize an issue like, why is my PC5500 on this block 8 instead of being on block 12, the moment that it starts working on it is probably the moment you're like, okay, at that moment right there, that's when it should have been over here. That's you atomicizing the problem. That's you making it very specific. You're not looking at the overall behavior of all of the equipment on the screen. If you can try and break it down to, okay, when's the first time like one piece of equipment is not doing what it's supposed to be doing, then you can use the tools that Spry's got to help you solve the problem. It's a really common one as well. It's like, why is this block not getting dug, or why is this here instead of there? This is the second main component of self-support. So we've got the output schedule for when your results are just adding up wrong. And then if the behavior of the excavators and the behavior of the schedule itself is wrong, then the snapshot viewer is the other half of that component. If you've got the animation date set, you get this current animation date. That allows you to get that exact moment that at that atom of the schedule. It'll take you to that exact moment of the schedule. You'll get the snapshot viewer. I would often recommend, if you're talking about behavior, you put the animation and the snapshot. We've talked about the snapshot viewer, I've talked about the snapshot viewer before, but once again, it's about coming down to and breaking it down to, okay, it's not the 6060, it's not the 6040, it's the PC5500. Why is it on an individual task? And what you can start to do is say, look, the reason why it's on this task is for XYZ. It might be that either it's the paths around the wrong way, which you'll see immediately. You should be able to see that the first thing in the list means it's doing the first thing it wants to do. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. You might be able to then go, well, okay, why are you not doing this? And you can go and find that it's number 8 in the path, not number 1 in the path. It might be on top of the path. It might be number 1, but it might be unreleased or constrained. That process will solve about 90% of the support questions that we get over the phone, just by breaking down the problem to the smallest possible level. It's really because when you're looking at these problems, you're looking at them from a high level. You're thinking about the mine and how it behaves on a holistic sense, or you might be thinking about things on a monthly or a yearly basis. But all of these problems often stem from, the bigger problems will stem from these small individual problems, and oftentimes going to that atomic level, solving the one little problem, will then unlock, like, you're not just solving it for that one moment in time, you're often solving it for the rest of the schedule. So that's the basics of it. It's not it's a little dry, but it's super important, and if you can pick up those skills just in thought process of going, look, once again, and I know I'm repeating myself, but think about the problems at the smallest possible level. Solve one small problem first. Just try to solve the smallest problem. And at the end of the day, if you can't work it out, if you have, you've used your process, you've gotten to the moment that it's not working, you've isolated a line, and something is just not making sense. You're like, I've done the maths in Excel. Here's what I'm expecting. I've done the formula. I've done this. I've looked at the path. Everything lines up, and it's still wrong, or whatever it is. Or even if you get stuck midway through that thought process, we're still here. But this is what we're going to do when you call us up. We're going to go back through this process. We're going to break it down to the smallest possible level, because we don't know. We're dealing with hundreds of different mines. We don't know when you call us the specifics of your mine, but we do know that all of these problems, at the end of the day, often come down to a single variable being, set up incorrectly, and we can often find that pretty quickly. So anyway, that was the basics. Self-support. If you have any questions about the new release or about anything else, as always, please contact us. I did miss something. For those of you who've managed to stick around to the absolute nth of this pretty dry one, I missed something in the new release, which is that you now have the ability to take your columns and format them. So conditional formatting, you can highlight. So if I want to say unique values, make them bold. Nothing's unique in this list, everything gets shared. Might go with something like highlight equal to coal, and I might give it a red fill with red text. Oh, the snapshot viewer might be getting in the way of that, actually. We lock a lot of things down when the snapshot viewer is open. Let's try that one more time. Conditional formatting. Process equals. Let's try that one more time. Coal. Doesn't work with the snapshot viewer open. We probably need to make a quick tweak to how that works. But you can see here that every time we hit coal, we've got a different color. We've got access to some data bars here, so you can now get a feel for the things that are larger than others. So these don't get saved at the moment. You can just sort of set them up temporarily. If you're exporting this to Excel, actually I haven't tested this yet, but I'm reasonably sure that if we spit that out to Excel, that we will also get that formatting coming across too, which can be nice. It'll load up automatically. Let's let that load. Maybe it won't. Let's fire that up. Browse. Sorry, just doing this off screen, not for any particularly good reason. Where is this model? Here it is. I have about 200 Spry models on my computer at any one given moment. Okay, here we go. And then main demo schedule. If this doesn't have formatting on it, I'm going to look a bit silly. So we've managed to get some of the formatting, but not all of it. So worth noting. Anyway, thanks for your attention as always. Let me know if you've got any ideas for these videos. I'm now 28 or 29 videos in. If you can't tell, I'm starting to run a little lower on ideas for what you guys are interested in. I've used a few of your suggestions and about how we can sort better ideas and tutorials, but if you've got anything else you'd like to see, anything else you don't know how to do, you can get into data flows if you like. You want to get into scripting, sure, I can do probably a simple scripting sort of one. Otherwise, have a good weekend. See you next time.